72 for letting us use this building. And now Bill Payne will introduce our county commander. Bill.
Hi everybody, I want to thank you all for coming here today. This is something we've been doing for many years. Just note that we do this when it should be done, which is in February, because when the Dorchester went down, it was in February. So as you sit here comfortably in a fairly warm room, I guess it could be warmer, but think of the folks that had to go into the North Atlantic that night after their ship was torpedoed. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our county commander, Randy Carlton. Randy?
Okay. Afternoon, everybody. Those who have served and are currently serving in the uniformed service of the United States, we are very mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. We call your attention to this small table, which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs, MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed in sacrifice to endure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents the red ribbons worn on the lapels of thousands who demand the unyielding determination, a proper account of our comrades who are not with us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of the bitterness of their fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from captors to open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. Let us remember.
We're here today really to honor the Four Chaplains and for all those who served, especially in World War II, and those who, many who died when the ship they were on was torpedoed in the North Atlantic. And these four chaplains really come down into our history as an example of patriotism and interfaith cooperation among people in a very difficult and terrible time. It shines as a light of goodness among what people can do even in terrible circumstances. It was known as Torpedo Junction, the U-boat infested icy waters of the North Atlantic during World War II. On February 3rd, 1943, the USAT, that's the United States Army Transport, Dorchester, an old coastal steamer quickly pressed into military service, was slowly making her way through those waters bound for Greenland. And I would like to point out that today, for the first time, although we've done this for many years, we actually have an example of life vests here today. And part of our ceremony will include the Boy Scouts, as you will see, so that we can, in a sense, reenact what was done on the decks of the Dorchester after it was torpedoed on that terrible cold night. We were able to get these from the Coast Guard station here in Saugerties. Alan Grzycki, who's one of our members and past commander, was also a former Coast Guardman, and he's got some contacts down there, and they were very kind to loan us the life jackets. It's also significant too because the three ships that were actually guarding the Dorchester that night were Coast Guard vessels that were doing anti-submarine warfare in very difficult circumstances in the stormy North Atlantic seas. So I certainly want to make sure I mention the fact that Chief Shepard down at the Saugerties Coast Guard station was kind enough to pass these on to us. They're on loan, we have to bring them back, and I'll do that tomorrow. When we're done with our ceremony here today, I'd like to remind you that our museum upstairs is open, and we have a whole lot of items up there that I'm sure you'll find interesting. Most of the men were seasick on board that ship and green with nausea. Because they were in submarine waters, the captain directed the men to keep their outer gear and life jackets on at all times. Moving among them were 4 Army chaplains: George Fox, Methodist; Alexander Good, Jewish; Clark Pauling, Dutch Reformed; and John Washington, Roman Catholic. The chaplains talked with and listened to the men, soothing apprehensions, offering encouragement, or sharing a joke. By their concern, their camaraderie with the men and one another, they were the very presence they brought solace. An enemy submarine stalking the ship undetected fired a torpedo toward the ship's aging flank. The missile exploded in the boiler room, destroying the electric supply and releasing suffocating clouds of steam and ammonia gas. Many on board died instantly. Some were trapped below deck. Others, jolted from their bunks, groped and stumbled their way to the decks of the stricken vessel. Taking on water rapidly, the ship began listing to starboard. Because security reasons prevented the use of distress flares, escort vessels still close enough to assist pushed on into the darkness, unaware that the Dorchester was sinking. Overcrowded lifeboats capsized, rafts drifted away before anyone could reach them. Men clung to the rails, frozen with fear, unable to let go and plunge into the dark, churning water far below. The 4 chaplains calmed frightened men, got them into the spared life jackets, and urged them over the side. The supply of extra jackets ran out, with men still waiting. Having decided to remain with the sinking ship, the 4 chaplains either gave or forced upon frightened servicemen their own life jackets. Too quickly, no more lifeboats could be launched, and many men were left aboard. But there was one more thing that the chaplains could do. When last seen, they were standing together on the deck, leading the men in prayer. With arms linked in friendship and heads bowed in prayer, they sank beneath the waves. 2 of those chaplains were Protestant, one was Catholic, and one was Jewish. Monsignor John McNamara, former Chief of Chaplains of the U.S. Navy, said at the Four Chaplains Award Service, "No casting director in Hollywood could have selected a better cast of characters than these 4 to portray the basic unity of the American people." The self-sacrifice of the 4 chaplains was a heroic act. It was not the only heroic act aboard the Dorchester, but it was the identity of these 4 young men, representing 3 great faiths of the American people, that add symbolism to their sacrifice.
Youngest of 4 men of God. Clark's first letter was written to his father. It was written in square block printing and was addressed by his mother. The letter found Dr. Pauling February 1918 in a dugout on the Western Front of another world war. The letter read, "Dear Father, gee, I wish I were there with you. Love, Clark." And in exactly 25 years, that eager little boy received his wish. Clark was the 7th generation in an unbroken line of ministers of the gospel. When the war came along, he did not want to go as a chaplain. "I can carry a gun as well as the next guy," he told his father. "I'm not going to hide behind a church in some safe office out of the firing line." "I think you're scared," the elder Pauling joked. Don't you know that your mortality rate of chaplains is the highest of all? As a chaplain, you have the best chance in the world to be killed. The only difference is you can't carry a gun to kill anyone yourself. And so Clark Pauling became a chaplain. Just before Clark sailed, he visited his father, and they were alone in Dr. Pauling's study when Clark turned to his father and said, Dad, you know how much confidence I have in your prayers. But Dad, I don't want you to pray for my safe return. That wouldn't be fair. Many will not return, and to ask God for special family favors wouldn't be fair. No, Dad, don't pray for my safe return. Just pray that I shall do my duty, and something more. Pray that I shall never be a coward. Pray that I shall have the strength and courage and understanding of men, and especially pray that I shall be patient. Oh, Dad, just pray that I'll be adequate.
He was only 5 feet 7 inches tall. Back in 1917, he lied about his age and enlisted in the Marines as a medical corps assistant. He went
was too young for World War I. And while George Fox was earning medals for heroic actions on the battlefield of France, Alexander Good was winning medals at Eastern High School in Washington, D.C. for tennis, swimming, and track. He led his class in scholarship as well. Alexander planned to follow in his father's footsteps and become a rabbi, but that did not stop him from having a laughing, shouting companionship with all the boys in the neighborhood, regardless of their religion or race. Alexander Good married his childhood sweetheart, Teresa Flax, and they had 4 children. Even after Rabbi Good received his own synagogue, he felt the need to do more. He felt he could know better how to heal men's souls if he knew how to heal the bodies as well. So for 3 years, he drove every day to Johns Hopkins University, 45 miles away, and earned his medical degree. In 1942, Rabbi Good was accepted into the Army as chaplain at the rank of lieutenant. One day,